Have you ever felt broken inside, like a Patrick Tar eyeshadow? Have you ever wondered what your makeup can do for you spiritually? Well, don't worry, because the Lipstick Lesbians have the solution for you. They're more than just influencers. These women do it all. If you want an unbreakable powder, they've got Amplify Flexi. If you want spirituality, they've got coaching courses up the wazoo. And if you want to fix the ache inside, all you need to do is turn to beauty healer Alexis Androulakis and her sidekick, Dr. Christina. If you're curious about one of the most unhinged influencer timelines I have ever come across, grab a beverage, grab a snack, and buckle in, because this deep dive drove me down a rabbit hole so deep and full of weird new age spirituality and so many scams that I broke an ankle. I am truly proud to present to you the Lipstick Lesbians Deep Dive. Hello and welcome. Let me get this out of the way. I'm disgruntled townsperson, an anonymous medieval peasant. Hear ye, subscribe and ring the bell. Today, I'm disgruntled about the Lipstick Lesbians. I make deep dives and video essays about whatever I want to, and this has been my hyperfixation for the last 3 weeks. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to cover a myriad of complex and entertaining topics. I'm going to talk about who Alexis and Christina are. I have looked into their credentials for those of you wondering how much credibility this product developer and her wife have. I'm going to be chronicling their entire journey as brand founders, beginning with their original brand, Fempower, and of course, ending up with their current brand, Leaked Labs. I have extensively researched Alexis's coaching services, which do date back to 2019 and have often included some aspect of spirituality or aura reading, along with cosmetics. This is all stuff that you might be aware of, but I bet you didn't know that before the Aura courses and before Leaked Labs, the Lipstick Lesbians crowdfunded over $11,000 for a lipstick collection that they never made. I bet you didn't know that during that time, December 2022, when they claimed to have been in financial dire straits and almost bankrupted by their first lipstick company, that they were also heavily invested in an internet scam called Web3. This story involves cryptocurrency, NFTs, and a fortune-telling alien entity who looks like a red chili with legs and lives in a weird and wacky virtual carnival. Yes, I'm being serious. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't know any of that because I had to troll the Wayback Machine to find versions of their website and courses that are now defunct. Here is how my videos work. I will always have accurate timestamps in the description box below. I have also listed all of my sources. I try to organize my sources as intuitively as possible rather than purely academically because I want you to be able to jump down the rabbit hole with me. With that said, put on your climbing gear and let's rappel down this chasm together because the stuff people are talking about right now is nothing compared to what I have learned researching this video. So let's get started. Who are the Lipstick Lesbians? For the uninitiated, the Lipstick Lesbians are a content creation duo primarily on TikTok made up of Alexis Androulakis and Dr. Christina Basias Androulakis. They are married, they are adorable, they are two femme lesbians living their best life, and a lot of the time their enthusiasm, or I should say Alexis's enthusiasm, because she's the face of the brand, is really contagious. Now, I've used the word brand very intentionally here. The Lipstick Lesbians is a brand that they've created together for their content. They rose to prominence around 2022, making what most people would call educational content. Alexis proudly proclaims that she is a beauty product developer, sharing knowledge about product formulas, ingredients, and unpacking the market for makeup, skincare, hair care, everything at Sephora. Most of the format for this content is Christina behind the camera asking questions and Alexis answering them with her wealth of knowledge and experience. Or so it would seem. So let's dive into who Alexis and Christina are separately. I will briefly tell you how they met, and I'll talk about what the Lipstick Lesbians really is now as a content creation powerhouse. Alexis Androulakis was born on May 5th. Don't ask me the year because I don't trust famous birthdays enough to include that one. But she was born in New York, and she's been passionate about makeup her entire life. She and Christina are both Greek, and their families both come from the same part of Crete. Alexis actually speaks Greek pretty fluently, and this cultural heritage is really important to her. She's talked a lot about how growing up in a Greek family with very conservative gender roles made it difficult for her to come out as a lesbian. She tells a very long-winded and confusing story on this podcast, which included her getting a DUI.
Out for hours drinking, as I mentioned. So I was like, well, let me just take my car. It's 5 minutes away. At least I'll have an escape. Yeah. To me, the prison of being stuck at the boyfriend's house would have been worse.
And there was no Ubers at the time.
Exactly. Right. I was like, that's the other thing that people, thanks for defending me, babe.
Sorry. I got you.
And going to jail for the night, and culminated in her coming out to her mom because she figured that going to jail was going to be worse in her mother's eyes than being a lesbian. I guess she felt it would soften the blow. Incidentally, she also got her first job in the beauty industry through a Greek woman who knew her mother and got her an interview at NARS, where she ended up working for almost 8 years. This is really where our story starts. Alexis worked at the NARS counter, and this is the reason she calls herself a professional makeup artist or a working makeup artist. But as far as I can tell, she has no actual qualifications or training in makeup artistry. This will become relevant later. Alexis credits her time working at NARS for igniting her passion for product development, where she used to turn over new products that came into the store and read the labels and then make observations about the product or where it was made. It's important to know that Alexis spent the better part of a decade selling makeup to people and doing it really well. She kept this job at NARS for such a long time that she actually talks about desperately trying to get off of the retail floor and move into the corporate world at NARS, but she was kept back because she was such a good salesperson. Honestly, I can see this happening. As someone who has also been an incredibly good salesperson and wanted to move from retail sales into fashion design, this to me totally checks out. Alexis is prone to exaggeration. She uses a lot of high modality language, a lot of extreme sort of phrasing, and honestly, it's a little bit tacky, but worse things have happened. One story that Alexis tells over and over again is about what she observed from her customers, mostly women, and why that inspired her to care about makeup and body image, basically. As a former makeup artist who spent almost 8 years on the sales floor, I noted that not one woman ever approached the counter, looked in the mirror, and said anything positive about herself. I eventually would start to twist these negative words into positive affirmations for these clients, and even then they would often turn beet red from embarrassment. I vowed that I would one day create a brand that made women walk up to those same mirrors and only say positive things. This is a really key part of who Alexis Androulakis is. She cares deeply about how people see themselves and how they speak to themselves, and she really sees makeup as a gateway to fixing a social ill that she does correctly attribute to patriarchy, but she does not correctly attribute to capitalism. To Alexis, heteronormative patriarchy is the problem and makeup is the solution. We're going to see this over and over again, but I wanted to include this story here just to give you an idea of what her personal philosophy is. Okay, so it's 2006. Alexis is working at NARS. She's identified that she wants to get into the back-end process of making makeup, and she decides to transfer her degree over to one of the only existing degrees at the time for cosmetic manufacturers who don't want to become chemists. What was her degree before? Don't know. She never specifies. Anyway, the New York Fashion Institute of Technology, or FIT, is actually a well-regarded institution. It was founded in 1944 for fashion, as you might guess, but it has expanded over the last half of the 20th century to include design, fashion, art, communications, and business. I have seen this institution referred to as an art school, but it does include some other specific degrees in beauty and fragrance and stuff. Alexis's degree is one of these specific ones. She lists it as a Bachelor of Applied Science in Cosmetics and Fragrance Marketing on LinkedIn, but to be clear, this isn't a science degree. It's a marketing degree. The way it's phrased makes it seem heavier on the science than it actually is. So it's a 4-year degree. Alexis absolutely did all 4 years, and this is legit. However, I will say I looked into this degree and I looked through the handbook. I went through all of the units, and it doesn't seem like there are that many in-depth, on-deck science units, if that makes sense. The laboratory hours tend to be 1 to 3 hours. It seems like singular sessions, but it's hard to tell. What I do know is that this degree includes some science and a lot of business and marketing classes. At its core, this is exactly the type of degree that would lead to Alexis's job as she describes it now, a product developer. She's not a chemist. It didn't give her that kind of qualification. When she says product developer, what she really means is the middleman between cosmetic chemists and the marketing team. Here she is describing it for us.
I have gotten so many questions about what product development is, so I made a chart for you all. This is not the end all be all, but here we go. At the top, we have your brand president, right? And of course, all the major head players are your senior leaders, and they're right underneath brand president. Then you have all your worker bees living here. I want to point out specifically what the cross-functional relationship is between the marketing department, the product development department, and the chemists. Generally speaking, a product developer will always work with a project manager, or usually they're not necessarily talking directly to the chemist. So then imagine the chemists are even further away from the marketing department. The product developer usually becomes a translator between the marketing department and the chemist. The marketing department will say, I want a 36-hour wear mascara. The product developer will say, well, it's going to be a really uncomfortable mascara. And the chemist will say, I can't make a 36-hour mascara. So welcome to the translation. That's me. That's what I did. That's what I lived for. The challenge.
So in the end, she gets lots of experience with understanding some ingredients and handling lab samples, all of that. So pretty much everything that she is known for now. Alexis does have quite a storied career, and I'll be honest, I listened to so many of her stories that take place towards the end of her FIT degree and then up until the launch of her first business with Christina, Fempower, but it's really difficult to put all of these stories into a timeline. She did work for some contract manufacturers. She worked with Drew Barrymore and Flower Beauty at one time, and she did for about a year work with Shiseido. At some point, she was working in Japan and running her own consulting business in product development, I suppose, and marketing. I might bring up a couple of the stories that she tells from this time when they're relevant later on, but for now, what you need to know is that Alexis is incredibly passionate. She's very knowledgeable because she genuinely loves what she does, and she has always engaged with making and selling makeup from a marketing perspective. Christina, on the other hand, started her adult life with a different passion. From 2006 to 2010, Christina was at Brooklyn College, where she got a bachelor's degree in English and Language Arts teacher education, so an English teacher degree. While she was there, she was in Kappa Delta Pi, which isn't actually a sorority, although I suppose that would be okay, considering she is actually Greek. But yeah, this is listed as an honor society. Anyway, she was also on the Dean's List. Then, from 2011 to 2014, still at Brooklyn College, she got her master's degree in English language and literature. She also did a study abroad program the summer after graduating. She went to Ghana, and she learned about education there. Anyway, this is where Christina's story really starts. Where Alexis is passionate about makeup, Christina, interestingly, is really passionate about technology and education. In fact, as this story goes on, you will notice time and time again that Christina has a lot of big ideas. She is often the mind behind the Lipstick Lesbians viral moments. She is also, however, very committed to innovation in technology, which led to her accepting a job offer to go to a virtual reality startup.
I accepted a job offer to go to a VR startup and use my education technology degree in virtual reality because I thought that could be a really cool pivot with where education and technology is going.
This didn't pan out, and it did leave her unemployed. So just as I took some time with Alexis to explain her personal philosophy, I'd like to take a moment to point out Christina's philosophical affiliation with New Frontier technology, often to the detriment of her finances. Christina has talked a little bit about AI in a positive way, and she's made a lot of technological ventures over the last 10 years that we will discuss in depth. Now, in between the years of 2014 and 2019, Christina also had a very storied career. She worked for the New York City Department of Education, doing a bunch of different tech and pedagogy roles. She's been an adjunct professor at Brooklyn College. She's also worked as an English teacher at Brooklyn College Academy, which is a public high school. In 2021, she successfully defended her dissertation on education and the way it pertains to digital spaces and received a PhD from the City University of New York. Good for her. And a few years after this, in 2023, well into the Lipstick Lesbians career, she also started a consulting business. I don't really know exactly what it was in, Alexis had one at this time as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself because in the middle of all of this, Christina and Alexis met each other, fell in love, and began a career together. Christina and Alexis's romance is actually pretty darn cute. They were both on Tinder in their mid to late 20s. Alexis had just come to terms with her queerness, and this was actually going to be her first date with a woman when she met with Christina. They talk about both having the distance set on Tinder to 30 miles, and then they were 28 miles away from each other. And as it turned out, even though they met in America, their families live so close together in the same part of Crete in Greece, which is cute.
Christina, she spent a long time teaching in a classroom setting. And I remember the energetic exchange because she would get so much from the students and she would give so much. She was missing her creative outlet, her energetic exchange, her sense of play. And basically Christina she Sherpa'd me into content creation, into everything by asking the right questions. And
you're an empath.
Yeah.
So she's really feeling it. Yeah.
I can feel.
All serendipitous. We swiped right at 11:11. It was, it was on a day that was both of our exes' birthdays.
And we're also both from the same island in Greece, an island called Crete. Yeah, no, it's really crazy.
It's
and
wild.
Keep going.
Lots of spiritual synergies.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a discerning listener, you may have noticed something about the way that Alexis talks about Christina. Things like lots of spiritual synergies and it's serendipitous right at 11:11. A couple of things that I like to call New Age spiritual dog whistles. New Age spirituality is a term that describes a collection of beliefs and practices from all around the world that have been cherry-picked, repackaged, and often transformed by primarily white people in the Western world. It started in the early 70s, and it's only been picking up more steam recently. We're talking mysticism, horoscope, holistic health, occultism, speaking about higher consciousness, reading tarot cards, lighting candles, the wellness industry. Alexis has made it clear on many occasions, and I'll get into it, that she is a strong believer in this kind of spiritual mythology.
And you're a little woo-woo witchy. I'm a little woo-woo witchy.
And look, as a Willa worm myself, I obviously understand that a little bit of this is fine, right? Like, I like horoscopes, but New Age spirituality is a colonial expression of spirituality, and by colonial, I mean it packages up spiritual practices in a way that makes it possible for you to purchase them. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Alexis's promises around spirituality. A lot of the time, you find them behind a paywall. So it would appear that part of what works so well about Alexis and Christina's relationship is that they balance each other out. Christina's academic, she's excited about technology, education, she's a much more empirically minded person. Whereas Alexis is passionate, she's full of creative energy, and she's very in touch with the more nebulous spiritual aspects of the world. And look, to their credit, these women met in 2014, and they clearly love each other very much. They have supported one another through some pretty intense financial ups and downs and some health issues as well, and they have really come out the other side stronger than ever. In December of 2022, Alexis actually lost half of her hearing, which is really upsetting. It was a shock when it happened, and she was in and out of hospital for like a month. Christina, being at the time the loving girlfriend that she is, actually took Alexis into Sephora to make her feel better about this. And when they got there was a new Makeup by Maria foundation, and Alexis was genuinely excited about it. In this moment, our mastermind Christina noticed how much insight and knowledge and passion Alexis had, and she was inspired to film this interaction and celebrate her girlfriend's knowledge and expertise. I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is where the Lipstick Lesbians started, because these days there are a lot of accusations that these women have always been charlatans, that they've always made content directly aimed at selling you stuff, and I frankly don't think that this is true. What is true is that their content developed and changed in a way that makes it difficult to tell what's paid advertising and what's not, but that's now. Back then, they reached a lot of people because of this genuine and authentic starting point. This first video became an overnight success, and Christina was the one to really see the potential of it. She convinced Alexis to batch film a bunch of TikToks in the days following this first viral video, because shortly after this, in January of 2023, Alexis had booked herself a wellness retreat in Costa Rica.
And you're a little woo-woo witchy. I'm a little woo-woo witchy.
So Christina farewelled her beautiful hippie woo-woo girlfriend, and she spent the next few weeks weeks, simultaneously working in her pretty high-profile education policy job and also pumping out TikToks. And this is where it gets good, because by February, both Christina and Alexis were unemployed. So at this time, content creation became an imperative. Christina developed the format of questions and answers that is synonymous with the Lipstick Lesbians today. Christina, whose expertise is not makeup, asks questions that fellow consumers would ask, and Alexis answers them. So within 10 months, they had 500,000 TikTok followers. At this time, they'd moved back in with Christina's parents, and they were there for almost 2 years because remember, they were unemployed and they had only just started seeing a little money from social media. In 2025, their content was successful enough that they were able to move back out. And to give you an idea of the kind of success that these women have found in their corner of the industry, when they moved house, legendary and infamously petty and greedy brand founder Charlotte Tilbury sent them flowers. That's how you know that these two women have been working for brands all of this time. Even after all of the recent controversy, don't worry, I'll get into it. The Lipstick Lesbians are sitting at 1.2 million followers on TikTok, 558,000 on Instagram, and 251,000 on YouTube. I want to give you a very quick snapshot of what it was like before Leaked Labs, which is the Lipstick Lesbians' most recent and controversial venture. Because their reach and the loyal viewership that they've had over the last 3 or so years should not be forgotten or underestimated. At the very least, people felt inspired by Alexis and Christina because of who they are, the fact that they're gay, and the way that they frame discussions around makeup. But at the most, these women actually put brands on the map. They would mention an indie brand, and then the brand couldn't keep up with demand after being in just one of their videos. I am going to detail their fall from grace, and from the next segment, there's going to be a lot to critique, but I wanted to give you a solid foundation for understanding why there are so many eyeballs on their recent snafu. So let's take a moment to remember what the Lipstick Lesbians were before I dive into the weird and wacky world of biblically inspired lipsticks from their first brand, Fempower.
What's your favorite beauty product of all time?
Right now? Is this makeup by my brilliant wife said, we're lesbians, we sell lipstick. We need to be the Lipstick Lesbians. We shifted to educational, entertaining content that provided insane value to our community.
How do I know which one's a tubing mascara and which one's a regular mascara?
Tubing mascaras were designed very specifically with the high level of film former. So L'Oreal has a washable formula. I don't know how many people know this, but this is the product. It's called Benetint. Launched this brand. And I used to work at a contract manufacturer. Benefit was one of my clients. It was my favorite brand to work on. So it was always the most innovative.
Okay. Loved it. Okay, you can
Queen.
still see there's quite a bit in there.
No, that's done.
What is this? What happened?
This is the Rare Beauty Mesmerize highlighter to show you when you use all of this bulk. So this is and we're gonna reveal what we call a good day. I wanna say hats off to Selena because I feel like the packaging is always really accessible. Something people don't realize is this surface is flat, so it doesn't roll around when you lay it down.
Hi. I'm Katie, I'm the founder of Luna Daily, and I have to come over because genuinely you have personally transformed my business and support. I feel like quite emotional to be embarrassing.
What is the difference with all of these bronzing drops? Let's talk about it. Who needs what? Where should you spend your money? Beauty queens, this is how beauty product developers evaluate whether or not a shade range is inclusive. Let's talk about it.
Have the Lipstick Lesbians done a video on this? How does this black blush turn into this?
Thank you, Michaela.
2 years ago, Christina and I were facing bankruptcy. Today,
Baby, what's happening today?
we're moving.
To our new home.
We had no other choice but to move back in with her parents.
What do you think about Rome?
What kind of rug is this?
There was no way we could rent another apartment because we were broke.
There's Dad.
This is the space that we built thousands of videos in.
This is going down for me for sure as the biggest inclusivity stain on our community in 2024. I am a beauty product developer and I've been in those rooms where you're formulating the darkest shades, where the people that are working on darker tones at the request of the brands that they're working with have never actually seen a human of color. Nobody has ever FaceTimed a coworker while we're in store.
There's no way. We talk about it all the time. We always
just
hoping.
like the day that I'm gonna come into this store.
I just like squealed at the register.
I just hope that we as a community are the people that are ushering in the next evolution of beauty versus major venture capital and private equity firms with lots of money. It's okay to go through these struggles. It's okay to be in pain. It's okay to show your vulnerability. It's okay to cry in front of almost 1 million people. It's okay to be authentically you and honest in what you're going through and what you've gone through. And it's also okay to have a really bad day at times. And those 22 days from the day of diagnosis to the day that we walked into Sephora were the darkest probably of my adult life. You can still rebirth yourself, and you can still really find your meaning and your truth and your passion even in your darkest day.
In the beginning, there was Fempower. So far, you may have noticed that Alexis talks a lot about product development for other people and very little about the product developing that she's done for herself, up until this point anyway. It's a bit odd for a couple that is so prone to self-aggrandizing, but even by their own standards, Fempower never really went anywhere. So you may be surprised to learn that their brand Fempower predates their TikTok by a good 5 years. Alexis and Christina began cooking Fempower up all the way back in 2017, and they released their first collection in 2019. By 2024, they were ushering Fempower into that good night. Christina actually says that they had nothing to show about being founders, nothing to share on TikTok, even though they chose their moniker because they were lipsticks who sold lesbians. Wait, no, that's not right. Lesbians who sold lipstick. When they talk about Fempower now, they sweep it under the rug with euphemisms about letting go so that something else could grow. But I think they're selling themselves short because Fempower had huge ambitions. Let me set the stage for you. This is the first joint endeavor for Alexis and Christina, the first merging of their personal philosophies. From Alexis, we have the most comfortable matte that has ever glided across your lips. And from Christina, we have the term beauty literacy. It was Fempower's mission to change the face of beauty through education. They also claim to include charity donations with every purchase. At one point, with every full-priced beauty purchase, we donate a product to a human in need. At other times, working with organizations like Dignity Not Despair, and at other times still referring to their own charity work, like the Fempower Beauty Initiative. Oh, they also said they would donate 10% of all of their earnings. And I should say, this is just for the first release, the Genesis collection. All in all, Fempower attempted 3 collections, released 2, and sold a bunch of gimmicky, cheap enamel pins and stickers. They crowdfunded and they started offering coaching courses. All the while, Alexis is talking about innovation the same way that she does now, but there's nothing innovative about the products from this brand. They released 2 types of lipsticks, one which is your standard bullet lipstick and one which is a double-ended liquid lipstick with a glossy formula on the other side. I'm going to be straight up, I'm not really going to talk much about their second release, which was in conjunction with Blair Armani, who is an activist. And the reason for that is that there's so much to get through, and frankly, the double-ended lipsticks are just really boring. A bit later in this section, I'll give you a montage of the marketing for this brand. You'll get everything you need to know about the double-ended lipsticks from that montage. And if that was all there was to it, then this video wouldn't be so long. But there is so much more. Buckle up, because I can almost guarantee you have no idea what I'm about to tell you, and it's so wild, you're not going to forget once you find out. Lilith was made for silenced. She knows how it feels to repressing and told of her place, but she is conquering her fears, demanding respect, equality, and power. She's a daringly perfect red, conditioned of blue-orange. She's fempowerment, made of invincible armor. You'll be screaming in silence with this fire on your lips. Yes! You heard that right. This collection is based on the story of Genesis, the one from the Bible. It's kind of intense, actually, because this whole collection speaks to the Lipstick Lesbians' general philosophy that men are really the problem with the beauty industry. The idea is this. Alexis and Christina aren't happy with the fact that the makeup industry is run by men. According to the Lipstick Lesbians, if lesbians are the CEOs, then all your body image issues will be solved. And so they created the Genesis collection, inspired by a matriarchal retelling of the original Genesis story. That's their phrase, not mine. 4 lipsticks, each of them with biblically inspired names: Eve, Adam, the serpent, and Lilith. A little piece of creative writing that goes with each, reinterpreting the story of Genesis for that character, and the introduction of a lipstick lesbian specific ritual called the Affirmation application. Additionally, a bunch of claims about sending money and lipsticks to charity, which I will go through in detail in a moment. First of all, let's talk about this matriarchal retelling of the Genesis story. I mean, this is creative enough. I don't mind a little bit of irreverence personally, but I do take issue with the quality of the creative writing. And I mean, the matriarchal interpretation itself is just so superficial. Honestly, it's not even worth diving that deep into it. Okay, but here is the description of the Genesis collection. Listen out for Alexis's voice here. You can hear the grandiosity of her marketing claims, and you can also hear her new age spirituality in this. Genesis collection. Each of our products is made to tell a story. We examine history through a matriarchal lens. I don't think they really know what matriarchal means, and question patriarchal stories we've been told for centuries. Our first product line, the Genesis collection, is made up of 4 lipsticks. They are essenced with forbidden fruit, whatever that means, and blended carefully with radically bold pigment. They just mean bright colors. They're pretty bright colors. To drench your lips in rich, lasting color every time you swipe. These shades come to life in the form of characters, where we flipped the patriarchal narrative of Adam and Eve and retold a femme-powered version of the story. Our products are personified to make you ask questions about history. Like, what if Adam took a bite out of the apple first? Would society look different today? Okay, our products are personified to make you ask questions about history. All right, that's not a bad idea. Let's spend some time with these personified lipsticks and let's see what they mean by matriarchal. Origins of Adam. I was very lonely in the Garden of Eden, even after God had brought me every beast of the field and every bird of the air. I was made a helper, and then put me in a deep, deep sleep and given my own helper, created from a piece of my rib. The very essence of her creation was to serve me, so I felt compelled to choose her name, Eve. She misled me, and I will never be able to forgive her. I am a little embarrassed to admit that I actually took a bite out of the apple the same time Eve did. I am equality. I wear this neutral muted mauve to showcase that we are equal. Man and woman coexisting beautifully in the Garden of Eve. So hopefully as I read that out, you caught the fact that they missed some words in some places. There's also a misplaced comma after the word admit and an extra comma after deep. There's the use of the past tense chose rather than the present tense choose, which would have been correct for the sentence. And then there's the whole idea itself. In this piece of creative writing, they introduce the idea that Adam is ashamed of taking a bite out of the apple, I guess, but then he also admits that Eve was there to serve him, and then he goes on to claim that he is equality. Obviously, that doesn't really make sense, and then when you read the blurb next to the lipstick, it makes less sense still. Adam was made for the embarrassed. He is fighting for equality, justice, and conscious empowerment. He is a symbol of strength, civil rights, and self-love, a perfect balance of brown meets pink, a mauve rose of lipstick courage for the everyday. His attitude is soft, working with you, vibing your natural nude, and never trying to change you. He is fempowerment, a symbol of equality in a fight for justice. I mean, what do you mean Adam was made for the embarrassed, but he's fighting for equality, justice, and conscious empowerment? How can he be a symbol of strength and civil rights and self-love if he's just like the same guy from Genesis who treated Eve like a slave and then took a bite from the apple? Look, I don't want to drag this out too long by going through all of these. There are 4 of them and they all have the same problems. And honestly, I blame Christina for this one. She's the one with a PhD in education and she's an English teacher. But you get the idea. Okay, so what of the lipsticks themselves? What are they made up of? They claim to be vegan, long-lasting matte lipstick, high pigment and waterproof, empowered with natural and vegan ingredients, coconut oil and sunflower wax. Albika brewed beeswax protects lips from sun and wind and lets the bees be. Frankly, it's nothing special. Christina has even suggested in retrospect that part of the reason Fempower didn't pop off is because their original collection wasn't a liquid lipstick, and so released in 2019, and then 2020 comes. People couldn't really wear them under their masks, but tons of people were doing their makeup at home and posting videos during this time. My interpretation is that the marketing for these is just really bad, and the lipsticks themselves, They're just lipsticks. But Fempower have claimed that the lipsticks are award-winning on multiple occasions. On their Amazon listing for Genesis lipsticks, they say, an award-winning matte nude lipstick, named the best for literally anything by Marie Claire magazine. But I can't find Marie Claire magazine ever mentioning Fempower Beauty, and I also have no idea what award they're referring to. It's difficult to know when this was written. I did find that they won a small award in 2024, like it's called the Beauty Visionary Award from Beauty Connect LA, but they've been listing the Genesis collection as award-winning since at least 2023, and this award has nothing to do with their lipsticks. And look, this whole project was pretty small time, so I'm not saying that they definitely lied about it, but it's difficult to find evidence to support these claims now. Something else that I struggled to find evidence for was their actual contribution to charity. So the first collection was released in early 2019, and at this time they were talking about this thing called the Fempower Beauty Project, which apparently was an initiative helping you sign, seal, and deliver a product to a femme in need of fempowerment. Honestly, the way they use this brand name as a verb kind of kills me. It's a little bit camp, so you know what, I'll let it slide. It took me a while to figure this out, but the Fempower Beauty Project works in two ways. So one option is that you can add an extra lipstick to your cart and then select for the Lipstick Lesbians to send that lipstick to someone in need. I'm fairly sure they were doing this through dignity, not despair. But additionally, Fempower claimed to send 10% of all of their earnings to the Fempower Beauty Project. And that's straight from their 2019 website. Anyway, so in September of the same year, they launched a crowdfunding initiative for their second collection. At this time, they claimed that they were sending a product to refugees for every full price product that someone bought. So that's another claim as well. On the website, it said, we still give one to a human in need for every beauty product purchased. You buy one equals we give one. I mean, those are a lot of claims. But I guess they had to make a lot of claims because they were talking about their brand as an activist brand. For Alexis and Christina, activism was at the core of their personal and also business values at this time, which is really interesting to think about because it didn't work out. And after it didn't work out, they completely dropped this from all of their subsequent business ventures. There's absolutely no transparency about how much of this actually happened. I have no idea how much money they sent, no idea how many lipsticks they sent. If anyone watching this video purchased from Fempower and you got some sort of confirmation about this, could you please let me know? Because I would really like to know. And also, I want to be clear that I'm not accusing the Lipstick Lesbians of lying about their charity. I just don't have the information to back it up. It's obviously possible that they didn't follow through with it, but it's also possible that they made so little money that they had barely anything to send over. Do you know what I mean? I don't think this was a grift in the traditional sense. I do not think these women set out to take people's money by telling them that they were going to give to charity and then just keep it. I absolutely don't think that's what happened. I think they had these huge ambitions. They were trying to live out their values, and I think they failed. I mean, this project nearly bankrupted them. It's a shame, kind of embarrassing, but you know, it's part of the journey. It's part of their story, so obviously, you can make up your mind about it. I've left all my sources in the description box. Before I jump into looking at the crowdfunding in detail, because that's another claim separate from the charity claims, I just wanted to give you a brief look at just how bad the marketing for Fempower was. I've put together a delightful little montage so that we can keep in mind maybe why this didn't succeed, and then we'll talk about the $11,000 they raised and where that went.
Today, I used Monstrasis as my base, and I hit Ubuntu just right in the center. Lip look. You mixed Euphoria and Access to take it to the perfect fall peach.
4 sentences that will make you rethink your problems, ability to deal with them. But after making it number 3, you're not stressed.
Remembering to affirm those negative thoughts, they're not a journey to become the best version of myself.
Oh my God, what is that? What is that?
I felt okay got me going.
Here's a shade I never thought I could rock. Ubuntu by Blurry Monty X Fempower Beauty. It's a lavender shade that has a matte finish and a gloss side as well.
Did you know that if you turn a Fempower lipstick bullet around, you can use it for extra precision?
Help us blow up our small business on TikTok. If you're seeing this, please
He was very charismatic. Not sure what to gift this year? Let's get up close and personal about our Genesis Bullet Lipstick and our Smarter Double-Ended Lip Sets. Here we go. Wax-based lipsticks. Lipsticks also won't feel as comforting and hydrating as a classic bullet lipstick. 2 lipsticks for the price of 1 matte gloss. Go for your Smarter lip set. Which one is your favorite? Tell us in the comments. Hater, historian, activist Blurry Monty called Smarter lip sets. They're called Smarter lip sets because there's education on every box in the form of Blair's microviral series Smarter in Seconds, paying homage to every facet of identity, culture, race, queerness, and especially education being at the forefront of beauty.
In late 2019, the same year that they launched their first Fempower product, the Lipstick Lesbians launched a crowdfunding initiative for what would have been their second collection, the Egypt collection. They used the website I Fund Women with the headline Fempower Beauty. We're an activist beauty brand that makes giving back look as good as it feels. Join us in building the future of beauty. Here are some snippets from literally the worst pitch video ever.
Each of our product lines tell a story.
And a troll through this page just tells us basically what we went through with the Genesis collection. Only this time, this is what they're planning. With your help, we will bring more untold stories of powerful femmes from ancient Egypt. Stories that were burned down with Alexandria, Egypt's capital. We often think of the women of Egypt as simply stunning and beautiful. But we want to celebrate, emphasize, and highlight and spotlight how they ruled empires. Empires that were some of the most successful in all of history. With these stories come more industry-leading products, this time heroing the eye. Your donation will fund the next round of production and bring these empowering, untold stories to light. Not to be petty, but again I ask, Christina, did you not notice all of these commas in the wrong place? The syntax errors? Come on, bro. The problem is these empowering, untold stories never came to light, and neither did more industry-leading products, this time heroing the eye. I honestly don't even know what they were talking about. They never clarify what the products actually would have been. So I guess that's red flag number 1. But let's make our way over to the rewards tab. What can you get for donating to this vague crowdfunding campaign? Most of these just include the lipsticks they'd already released from the Genesis collection. One has a mirror, one of them is only a donation. And then there are other tacky items like For the Merch Fiend, which is enamel pins, a t-shirt, and this cheap-looking holographic backpack. And we see Christina's touch in downloadable Fempower for $10. This is for all the true femme fans out there. Those who want messages of fempowerment every time you check the time or a text to remind you you're truly part of the change you wish to see. What is this, a phone wallpaper? I don't know. But what do we see here? $200 for the lover of networking. Being the founder of a company makes you part of a rare breed. We fully believe in the power of founders supporting founders. Want to chat about PR, product development, public speaking? We can do a live online session or meet in person for a drink or coffee. Okay. I'm a little concerned about the use of networking in this option. Let's keep in mind that at this stage, the Lipstick Lesbians have no real achievements under their belts, and Fempower is so small that they're crowdfunding their second launch. So who are they offering to network with? But what is this over here? Tip. Thank you for including a tip. And then there's a drop-down menu starting with 15%, a $30 coach's tip. Your total support amount includes an optional tip for the I Fund Women coaching staff who provide thousands of hours of free coaching to women entrepreneurs to help them raise money. Thank you for paying it forward to our coaches. Okay, I don't love that, but I guess it's the website that they're doing it through. But here is the most egregious reward. Beauty product development for $150. Do you want to start a beauty brand but unsure where to start? Need help developing a cosmetics formula or need help finding a manufacturer? Want to know how to take a product to market? Well, you should chat with our founder, Alexis Androulakis, an expert beauty product developer. She has worked for the top beauty conglomerates, and the products she's developed have frequented awards such as Allure's Best in Beauty, most recently the one provided in 2019. Because of her, our very own Virtue Matte lipstick won awards such as Best for Literally Everything in Marie Claire Mag's #Big Lipstick Energy, and was featured as one of the top 30 lipsticks to buy in Hollywood Life. Once again, I just want to mention I can't find any evidence of these awards. I'm not saying they didn't happen. I'm just saying I can't find it. Also, they don't capitalize the proper noun, so it's hard to know what's a name and what's a description. Yeah, she's a rock star and speaks makeup like a fluent language. She can help you with mostly anything related to your beauty brand. This is a 1-hour meeting and can be done IRL if you are based in NYC or virtually. So this is $150 for a 1-hour meeting with Alexis, who's worked with big brands, but whose own brand has gone literally nowhere. But to be clear, this was not the first coaching offering Alexis had made at this time. And all of the other courses offer like the same thing, but in a lot more hours. So either the courses she's offering that are like 15, 20, 30 hours could be done in an hour, or she's promising a lot more than she could possibly achieve in an hour for $150. You may recall that when I introduced the Genesis collection, I mentioned something called the Affirmation application. The Affirmation application is a very stock standard grift, so I'll go through that in my next section. And I can't imagine that this 1-hour meeting that you would pay $150 for could really offer that much value. But before we move on from this crowdfunding and onto the grifting courses, we need to talk about the amount of money that they actually raised. You can see right at the top of this page that they raised $11,041 of their $11,000 goal with only 71 funders. To be clear, one of these funders did pledge $5,000 on live TV. They've listed this as the Girl Boss Grant, which is really funny because you can see they've said there are 2 of these left. So someone else could choose to donate $5,000 to them. But yeah, Sophia Amoruso, founder and CEO of Girl Boss, gave them $5,000 on Good Morning America, so good for them. But when it comes to the other $6,041, your guess is as good as mine. Hi, editing townsperson here. I forgot to mention that they straight up failed the crowdfunding because it says they had an $11,000 goal at the top of the page, but they didn't. They actually say in the pitch video that the goal was $50,000. And then Christina mentions a few times that they couldn't afford to fund the next product. So yeah. From this point onward, just know they definitely did not reach the goal that they intended, so they did not reach the collection. But what happened to the $6,000? You know, it's still a valid question. Oh my god, no, that's my cat. Ah! Yeah, that was really gross, but he's okay now. And if you, just like everyone else in my town, thinks that I'm weird for caring so much about cats when they literally just exist to catch rats in the barn, I already said I'm a walla. Okay? In that way, I'm like Alexis and Christina, okay? That's my bread and butter. Because even though they mentioned this collection in multiple interviews and podcasts, they never released it. They never even talked about what the products were. All they said is that it has to do with Egypt and the eyes, whereas previously they'd released lipsticks that have to do with the Bible. That's it. All of this posturing, all of these promises, the coaching tiers, and where did it go? Now, look, at this point, I would like to remind you that I am not an investigative journalist. I am just a disgruntled peasant with an internet connection and a delightful personality. I would also like to remind you that this venture made Christina and Alexis no money. Actually, it made them minus money because they nearly went bankrupt. So I would like to float the idea that although it's possible that they were nefarious and unethical with this money, it is also likely that they simply failed. I am fully open to the idea that they gave everyone who paid for this what they were promised, sent out lipsticks and emails, and maybe even refunds. Now, the problem, of course, is that they deleted any videos talking about this, and any website or flyer or email about it is long gone. So any conclusion drawn from this situation is pure speculation. If anybody watching right now happens to be someone who backed this Egypt collection, please share your story in the comments below because I am dying to know. And if you haven't figured this out by now, they talk about everything they make as the best thing ever when it's happening, and then when it fails, they scrub it from the internet, pretend it never happened, and start again. This is especially relevant for the following section, the grifting courses. We knew we no longer needed physical goods to sell to complete this mission, says Androulakis. We thought we did, and we were wrong.
The Affirmation application. I hosted these sessions. They were on Zoom. I did about 100 sessions. It's like a spiritual makeover. It's like a beauty aura healing.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite things I've ever done, like one-on-one with anyone, where we are walking you through the educational aspect of how to put the product on, but how to reframe every single thing that you're saying to yourself while you're putting it on.
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting eyeshadow on. You're blending your vision into reality. You know, you're putting mascara on. You're opening the windows of your soul, your eyes. It literally is like dating yourself.
Yeah.
And you're getting this intimate connection with who you are. What we learned with Fempower, it was way too deep, way too fast.
Yeah.
Like, whew, some people aren't ready to go that deep. The entire existence of our platform, yes, is education first, and let's bring you in for the education. But as we continue to grow, we will always add snippets of that affirmation application experience.
Yeah.
How to speak to yourself every single time you look in the mirror.
Alexis identifies herself as a beauty healer. Like,
yes,
I don't know how many people have read our bio on Instagram, and even your personal Instagram too, is just like, I consider myself a beauty healer, right?
The Affirmation application is the earliest example I can find of Alexis's course offerings. After establishing this, her beauty aura readings became their own sort of paid experience. I'm not sure how much she was charging for the Affirmation application Zoom sessions, but she has given a reasonable amount of detail in describing what went on in those sessions. Allegedly, this holistic approach to beauty combines scientific learnings around the way that you think, see, touch, and love yourself. But the word scientific is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, and it's not really accurate. In a now deleted interview with Haley Thorson in 2022, a few years after the Affirmation application was established, Alexis mentions a whole bunch of disparate practices in an attempt to establish some sort of scientific research that is backing the Affirmation application, but then she makes no connection between any of these practices and her course. She says there are examples of tapping, also referred to as emotional freedom technique or psychological acupressure, which is scientifically proven to decrease cortisol. There are examples of breathwork taken from James Nestor's book. There are facets from Kristen Neff, a PhD based in Texas who runs a center for self-compassion and educates a lot around the psychological effects of literally looking at yourself in the mirror, holding your face, and saying something kind. There is a variety of research and a lot of trialing and erroring with real people. And then she immediately goes on to say, we piloted these practices in different ways. In a group setting, I did about 30 individual one-on-one sessions, and then we hosted a few workshops/webinars. What you're getting is mindfulness modalities, beauty application techniques, and affirming messaging. This is what we in the industry like to call a word salad. Mindfulness modalities? What are you talking about? Because then she goes on to describe that when I'm bronzing, I'm teaching my technique on bronzer, but I'm also affirming that I'm building my boundaries. It's super fun. The idea is to remove all those negative self-thoughts and self-talk. Like, brother, what are you talking about? You're just saying some mantras to yourself. But I think part of this process is that she specifically recommends products as well from certain brands with certain vibrations. You get that real mix of new age spirituality and marketing, and that's basically the affirmation application. My favorite part of this long interview is when the interviewer asks what has been the response to the affirmation application practice, and Christina says, "People don't know that they need it. That's the challenge we face." Yeah, bro, I think you hit the nail on the head. People don't know that they need it because it's not necessary. Again in 2022, this time in an interview with Dapper Q, Alexis says, "This freedom is about untying yourself from anything that does not serve you emotionally or spiritually in your life to allow you to evolve and grow beyond where you find yourself at that moment. We do this through beauty rituals and products that serve as daily reminders of this mission and message." This too is just word salad, and you could almost miss the part where she says that she does this through beauty rituals and products. What she means by this is that they sold enamel pins and decals that you could stick onto the mirror, so every time you look in the mirror, you could read some of the words they choose to tell you in vinyl. Don't be fooled. Every single part of the affirmation application has something to sell you. And the grifting courses just grew from there. I'll just clarify that the word grift is used to describe the way that someone can swindle you out of your money, usually through scamming you, convincing you that you need something, telling you your money is going to go somewhere it doesn't, and not delivering on the promises that they've made. After the affirmation application, we have Let's Learn About Beauty, or LLab. Now, LLab has all of the hallmarks of a classic grifting course. We've got the word salad, we've got claims that this course will serve everyone, from those who want to become a consumer genius to those working in the industry as artists or people who want to accelerate their careers. Right? Like, there's a reason that every single person can use the LLab course, apparently. They claim that on their social media, people were begging from this course from them, a masterclass in Alexis's expertise. And they also make claims about how this course has never been done before, and it's absolutely groundbreaking. Oh, Alexis.
If I had a tool like this when I was up and coming in my career, who knows where I'd be? This is all about the future of democratizing beauty education and product development. The truth is, there's not one single place in the world that you can go and learn the skills that I've amassed almost 20 years working in the beauty industry. The three of us together are revolutionizing how beauty education comes to you. This is beauty education. This is beauty democratization. This is LLab. Me, my chemist bestie, Christina, literally 60 years of knowledge mashed up together for the best possible educational content that has ever existed virtually for you to learn.
Okay, but what is the Let's Learn About Beauty course? The first thing you need to know about LLab is that they launched it before it was ready, and this is something that they've spoken about. Most recently in 2024, they said, of course, we did an alpha launch really early on, but it was too soon. Like, we need to go deeper. Which is true, they did launch this, people paid for it, and then they kind of rolled it back because they needed to improve it. So here they are talking a bit about what their intentions were with LLab in 2024.
Yep. So we're going to be doing like micro credential certification course and really helping people like accelerate their knowledge. And for those that want to get into the industry, like the Lipstick Lesbian certified, like you went through our course and let's like do this.
Like, we've worked with a chemist who's been in the industry almost 20 years, and together Christina built the most beautiful framework that has ever existed, taking her background, her PhD, her thesis, and we've applied it now to beauty, and both of our brains came together. So let's put it into this digital course. Of course, it's going to have a paywall, but the idea too is to build that community for people to be able to network.
But if you go on the website now, you'll see that Let's Learn About Beauty is still an option. I think it's about to relaunch, allegedly with the same acronym, except this time it'll stand for the Lipstick Lesbians Academy of Beauty. Okay. Look, again, I've watched a lot of content about this and listened to Alexis talk very long-windedly about this, and I've read a bunch of articles. Basically what it is it's a big sort of booklet, I guess, which they call the curriculum, just like written resources, and then a bunch of videos where they go through different types of products and they compare them, and I guess they basically just do like a long-winded version of what their TikToks are, and then they put in like quizzes and stuff. They explain products, they talk a bit about ingredients, and then they talk a lot about marketing. Hi, editing me here. I forgot to mention that this course has had many iterations. It was a little bit difficult to put it in a timeline. It doesn't matter that much. It's mostly been the same the whole time. And that's the key, obviously, is the marketing of this course. From this interview, the course took almost 2 years to develop and features proprietary tools like a product development anchor wheel, a framework, and a visual aid to simplify evaluation factors for different cosmetic categories, mind maps, also includes worksheets and materials. Yeah, and then they say self-assessment quizzes that enable viewers to earn an official LLab certificate after completing the course. Okay, at one point it was offered as a subscription, and then it transitioned into really hefty one-time payments for either parts of or the whole course. Let's take a look. Okay, firstly, I cannot deal with the ChatGPT ass little listings with the tick emoji. I guess that's in line with some comments that Christina made about AI a while ago. Obviously, she's a fan. But here's the real grift. You can do individual models for $225 American each, or you can do all of the models for $810, which is a lot of money. The other buzzword, I'm not sure if you noticed, is democratization.
This is all about the future of democratizing beauty education, are revolutionizing how beauty education comes to you. This is beauty education. This is beauty democratization.
Kind of like how they used the words matriarchal earlier in the Genesis collection. I don't think they actually understand what democratization means. Democratization implies a move from authoritarianism towards something more radically, readily accessible and empowering for the people who had previously been under control. Democratization does not refer to offering a course for nearly $1,000 that you would otherwise have to go through a career in product development to learn. That hasn't democratized anything. I guess in their mind, they're like, oh, but we do a payment plan, so that makes it more accessible. But democratization isn't just about accessibility, it's about dismantling a system that inherently disadvantages some people. This, once again, is evidence of the flawed philosophy of the Lipstick Lesbians, because for them, they don't want to dismantle the system of the beauty industry, right? The issue for them is simply that they, the lesbians, should be at the top of the pyramid rather than all of these men. That's why they feel that this course is in any way democratizing something. But the confusion between accessibility and empowerment and truly dismantling a system of structured and hierarchical power is just totally lost on them. If you've been paying attention online recently, you might notice that people have been talking about this course and it's absolutely rubbing people the wrong way. Now, I make an effort to be nuanced and balanced and fair in my research and my analysis as well, but this course to me has very few redeeming features, especially when you take into account the structure and the content itself. Like, I can't say for sure that they used AI to write all of these blurbs, but it sure looks and feels like they did. And I can say for sure that whatever they're claiming in terms of certification from this course is absolutely bogus. If you want to work in the beauty industry, if you want to work as a makeup artist, if you want to work in cosmetology, you actually need to take regulated courses that are recognized by the regulatory bodies and governments in states and cities in which you live. This certification gives you absolutely nothing. And that's how you know that this is a grift. But before you jump to the conclusion that these women are soulless grifters who have made a fortune from their audience's gullibility, we need to talk about something called Web3, because these are not your stock standard grifters. Okay, these women fell for exactly the same stuff that they subject their audience to, and I've mentioned a few times that around 2022, the Lipstick Lesbians almost went bankrupt. Well, I'd like to posit that part of the reason this happened was not just because of the downfall of Fempower beauty, but in fact because they themselves fell prey to an internet scam. And I can almost guarantee you've never heard of this because it is so embarrassingly stupid and crypto guy-coded, and I don't mean to be rude, but Christina, you're the one to blame for this. I had to take a quick break. Everything ran out of battery. Oh, and that is not personal at all. I'm just a big fan of this musical. Okay, right. Where were we? So I was on my mission to watch every podcast the Lipstick Lesbians have ever been on. when I stumbled upon this conversation between Alexis, Christina, and the host of this little podcast, where all three of them seemed to be almost speaking another language. This was also in the auspicious year of 2022, and I was expecting to hear all about Fempower once again. Honestly, I was just hoping for a bit of information about the Egypt collection, but the Egypt collection doesn't even make an appearance in this conversation. Instead, they kept talking about this transcendent thing called Web3.
The Basias exhibition in New York City through our friend Jessica Greenwald. She's the creative director for Vayner NFT, also the creative VP for Fish4, cybersecurity, super important in Web3. You know, we went to VCon together.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a mythical garden, which is very apropos for Web3, I think.
Yeah.
In that you feel like you're somewhere else. And I think that Fempower as an energy is going to evolve with Web3. And our goal, if Gary V were to make a V friend of Christina, it would be Curious Christina.
Oh, I love this. We need to send this to him.
I think he is a curious one because that's the number one.
Yeah.
It's the number one emotion. So I think there's a curious one, but let's just send him the Curious Christina. I like that idea.
Was willing to be curious with Christina and like explore with her and give it a shot, because I do believe in what it can do and how it can afford us the space to explore so much deeper. And our goal in Web3 as partners, as business partners, as life partners, is to create this like expansive mindset around your identity and your sexuality and your gender expression inside.
So brilliant. And I started listening to his podcasts, and then I started listening to other podcasts, not just Gary Vee, and expanding my network out of that. And then, we actually had a call with Jess Greenwald. What I think took Alexis, 5 to 6 months to realize, which is that this is so much bigger than all of us right now. This is the next iteration of the internet. Us in Web 2, because, our Fempower Beauty is very much a Web 2 brand. And we've had so many roadblocks as a Web 2 brand.
But I could tell this was some sort of weird culty scam right away, because they were constantly name dropping people and things that mean nothing outside of their group. Like Googling these things mostly brought up nothing until I found the correct pipeline that I was then able to go down to dredge up this information. And when I say culty, I mean culty, because this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's basically the guru of what Alexis and Christina consider to be Web3.
The person that shifted my mindset about social media more than anyone was Gary V, who my wife turned me on to.
Gary V.
I
want to meet you.
I would literally say it's time for church. The man is church.
He is Gary V. He has some sort of questionable media company called Vayner. He created VCon, where Alexis and Christina met this podcast host. He has his own self-help book, which these people treat like a Bible. And he also sells NFTs called Gary V's V Friends. But first, what is Web3? The term Web3 refers to a nebulous internet scam that requires you to learn a whole bunch of made-up words in order to understand what it promises. Here's an example.
The future of the internet, Web3.
It's the next evolution of the internet, powered by blockchain technology. Right now, the internet is run by a few big players. They control what we see, what we share, and our data. Now, let's dig a bit deeper. If you're into crypto, you've heard about decentralization. That's the core of Web3.
Your data, and even get rewarded for your content with crypto tokens. Blockchain lets us do all of this by cutting out the middleman. It's about creating entirely new systems built in different layers. Transactions happen across decentralized networks on-chain. And on top of these protocols are smart contracts. The logic layer. These self-executing contracts automate transactions and remove the need for intermediaries
that users interact with. Whether it's cryptocurrencies, NFTs, or dApps, these applications are powered by the underlying protocols and smart contracts that define Web3. It's the future of how we'll own, interact, and exchange online. I'm excited about it.
Thankfully, though, the wonderful people at web3isgoinggreat.com have given us a much more accurate description of what Alexis and Christina actually got involved with at the time.
One of the most distinguishing features of Web3 is the sheer level of hand-waviness surrounding it. While you can find no end of press releases, crypto evangelists on Twitter, and venture capitalists extolling the virtues of Web3, you'll have a much harder time finding any definition that's not so full of buzzwords that it becomes meaningless. That's because Web3 is first and foremost a marketing term. Generally speaking, Web3 is an umbrella term to refer to the future of the internet, which believers say will be decentralized and based on the blockchain. Proponents tend to tout how data won't be controlled by big tech, and how it will be uncensorable and egalitarian. There is, however, no shortage of examples in this timeline of how many Web3 projects are indeed centralized in similar ways to big tech, as well as instances where uncensorable or unmodifiable platforms have removed or modified data. Skeptics of Web3 tend to point out that decentralization was a founding tenet of the internet and is not something that is only or best achieved with a blockchain. They also tend to point out the enormous environmental impacts of blockchain technology, particularly proof-of-work blockchains, including Bitcoin and until recently, Ethereum. They also often mention that an awful lot of Web3 projects sound quite a bit like Ponzi or pyramid schemes, and question the lack of regulation, oversight, and taxation that makes fraud, tax evasion, and other criminal behavior particularly rampant in the space. Ideas described as Web3 tend to incorporate some of the following: various cryptocurrencies, decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs, decentralized finance, DeFi, and non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and smart contracts.
Okay, so are we all following? Are we starting to see maybe an extra element to their bankruptcy in late 2022? Now you might wonder, well, I can see how Alexis would fall for something like this, what with her whole wellness, new age spirituality thing, but what about her wonderful wife with a PhD? Doesn't she have the critical thinking skills to see through this? Unfortunately, I'm going to stop you right there because this is almost certainly Christina's fault. As it turns out, Christina discovered NFTs back in March of 2021, but she says it wasn't until she finished her PhD writing in August of 2021 that she was able to really nurture this new obsession. She talks about being so obsessed with this whole Web3 NFT thing that during a holiday she was on with Alexis, she actually waited out to see Alexis, who was swimming at the beach, and talked her ear off about how they really needed to get in on this opportunity now because it was all about to blow up. Well, one thing led to another, and Christina purchased tickets to VCon to see the magic that Gary Vee built and experience the ecosystem I immersed myself in. Doesn't sound like such a big deal, except that you can't buy tickets to VCon with real money. You have to use crypto. To be fair to Christina, around this time, 2022, VCon was almost like high profile. They had celebrities there. In 2022, VCon had none other than Deepak Chopra, Eva Longoria, Huda Katan of Huda Beauty, Liam Payne, Logan Paul, Seth Green, Snoop Dogg, Spike Lee, Steve Aoki. Like, this guy, Gary Vee, clearly has the charisma to be a cult leader. And these names, they lend some weight to VCon, don't they? But look, not to sound like a cynical cat, yours for only $6,153, I'm just not sold on the idea of NFTs, especially Gary Vee's NFTs, having any viability as a long-term investment. And look, I have no idea how much money Alexis and Christina actually sunk into this scam, but I can tell you that Gary Vee's chicken scratch V friends NFTs each sell for thousands of dollars. And Gary Vee is not alone in this, obviously. Most NFT and cryptocurrency investments end with a concussion after the rug is ripped out from under you. But our mate Gary Vee, he's been implicated in a range of NFT rug pulls, including accusations of insider trading and market manipulation with everyone's favorite Mr. Beast and Logan Paul. But of course, Alexis and Christina didn't know any of this at the time, and as far as they could tell, they were getting in early. They were set to make good investments, and hey, they were making friends as well. But unfortunately for Alexis and Christina, this wasn't just a personal venture. They were doing their darndest to throw their careers as the Lipstick Lesbians right into the bin with Web3. When I said that they couldn't stop talking about it, I meant they couldn't stop talking about what Web3 could do for the beauty world. Let me try to describe this as clearly as possible. I'm gonna have to translate some of these made-up words as we go so you can follow along. So basically, after VCon, Alexis and Christina purchased what they call a parcel from this company called ISG in an initiative they call Somnium Space. It's possible that they had to use this sort of crypto wallet called WOW as well to achieve this. That's my inference because they mentioned WOW in all the conversations around this. Anyway, what is Somnium Space? It's basically like a really expensive Roblox world for adults. Like, it's just a virtual space where you can make an avatar and you can purchase, like places to set up shop, make little buildings and stuff. From what I understand, this is the parcel they bought, like a virtual shop front, a little space in the virtual world. Basically, Somnium Space is a very expensive collective delusion where everyone who talks about it is just pretending that this is different from a video game or a website. It's a new reality that you can enter two-dimensionally, but inside it's infinite. To give you an idea of what this infinite new reality was actually like, we have these examples that I guess Somnium Space is really proud of because they put them on their website. We have a fortune-telling three-eyed chili and Gary's red alien avatar. I kind of assume this is Gary V himself, accompanied by some really bad poetry. I mean, I personally can't tell the difference between this and Roblox, but if you can, I guess maybe it's worth it. And that game of play pretend is exactly what Alexis and Christina wouldn't shut up about. Their vision was to basically create virtual spaces with different sort of lipstick lesbian themed areas. They wanted to champion women artists and, you know, like brands, I guess, as well. And if you're wondering, well, was Christina leading the charge on this after all? She may well have been, but as usual, Alexis did all of the talking.
There's many similarities in the sense that very much like your sexuality in terms of how it takes a little bit of time for you to explore it and let it evolve and understand it. And even sitting in an 8-year monogamous lesbian relationship, what I may have identified year one of our relationship may have been bisexual. I don't identify that way anymore. Yeah. There is an evolution within each of us that we are allowed. You may feel non-binary today, trans tomorrow. The fact that you want to go into a gender reassignment, path/journey, and no one should be allowed to take that away from you. But bringing it and bridging it to the Web3 space, so many people approach Web3 with aggressive resistance, just like they approach homosexuality with aggressive resistance. So I think Web3 has this stigma that and NFTs that is similar to, in a sense, like, the acceptance that we all have to realize with our sexuality, and it doesn't have to be put into this box, but it's an evolution.
Well, there you have it, people. She just compared Web3, an internet scam, to being gay. I think that's our full circle moment. Let's wrap it up. Okay, look, I've been fairly glib thus far about Web3 and the Lipstick Lesbians' involvement, but I want to make something very clear in this section. Alexis and Christina didn't deserve to get scammed. And the person who is really at fault for all of this is Gary Vaynerchuk and his lame-o friends. I want to keep this fact in mind as we move on to the next two sections of this video, sections where we talk about times where Christina and Alexis may be the people in charge of some potentially scammy behavior of their own. The thing about critiquing scams and grifts or fraudulent behavior is that we care about it because it's not fair. But Alexis and Christina are people too, and they never deserve to be on the receiving end of a scam. It's fun to be affronted and make fun of grifters. It's just so easy and it feels righteous. But in cases like these, we can't lose sight of the fact that just because someone has done something wrong, that doesn't mean they deserve bad things to happen to them. The very reason that I'm critiquing Alexis and Christina is the same reason that I'm upset that this happened to them. And I'd like to posit that their lack of critical thinking skills and falling for Web3 may also have contributed to the scams and grifts that they have created. I suppose it's possible that if they never recognized how much of a scam this is, they may not understand how much of a scam they've created. Look, let's just take this knowledge with us. Alexis and Christina have shown us that they will go balls to the wall for a business venture that promises some bright new future. They've also shown us that they can't tell the difference between a scam and a genuine innovation. By the end of 2022, they were nearly bankrupt, so they laid their lives on this line. I guess the question I want to hold for these next few sections is, what were Alexis and Christina's intentions? Were they really nefarious? Or have they consistently misjudged the holes in their personal and business philosophies? And that's led to some questionable incidents. All right, that was a lot. And before we catch up with the present, I want to make sure I touch on another important element of the critique leveled against the Lipstick Lesbians, and that is cringe. To be fair to the Lipstick Lesbians, they have had a very loyal following for the last 3 or 4 years, and that is real and valid. A lot of people have related to them, and they found their content to be educational and empowering. There's evidence of this. However, I do think it's accurate to point out a certain level of cringe from these creators. Most of it stems from their personal philosophy, which is very brand and marketing forward. Basically, these women are passionate about makeup, or at least Alexis is, and as I've established, she really, really loves the beauty industry. Like, she loves the brands, she loves the marketing, she loves buying, and she loves selling. And this hasn't always sat well with everyone. I'm going to do this section more like a lightning round so that we can get through it. So let's dive into their actual content. In October of 2024, the Lipstick Lesbians made a video in which they opened a Patrick Tar eyeshadow and the product fell out of the pan when they opened the compact. For context, Patrick Tar is a really, really expensive makeup brand. The Major Dimension eyeshadow duo that Alexis showed breaking on camera cost 75 Australian dollars for 2 shades. That's a lot of money. So where's the controversy, you might ask? Well, Alexis, in all her product developer brand forward glory, made a video trying to convince her audience that the broken eyeshadow was actually evidence of extremely high quality ingredients and production, and that it broke because of the expensive pearl that was used to make the eyeshadow, therefore justifying not only the price, but the way that it broke. The issue with this is that defending a $75 eyeshadow literally breaking upon opening kind of goes against the relatability that they had been going for up until this point. Like, if a product literally breaks in front of you and you try to convince your audience that actually it breaking was a good thing and you absolutely should spend $75 on it, you're not really hitting the mark when it comes to trust. Basically, the biggest issue with the Patrick Tar video debacle is that the Lipstick Lesbians always double down and they never take responsibility. Please consider this some not so subtle foreshadowing, because they made, I think, 3 more videos doubling down on this, despite garnering more and more critique with each subsequent video.
How is this different from the eyeshadow falling out of the pan? Should have that been reformulated?
No, because that is such a unique style base. Blur the base, and it doesn't happen with every single one. And you can still utilize the product. It's not like destroyed. It's still completely intact when it falls out. No, I'm not defending this price point. I'm simply saying this is a business. He decided to teach you that the pearl is likely what's driving the cost of this.
Some people were also talking about that issue where it fell out of the pan,
which is very common in slurries, which is common for all brands of the highest end. If you like Pat McGrath and Danessa, then go support them and buy their palettes. But some people don't need a 10 well or a 12 well. Some people just want a dual, and some people are going to go to Hourglass and buy the single. Most important thing that I want you to feel when you watch this video is that you have more power than anybody. You, the beauty community, decide with your dollars every day.
Yikes. In December of 2024, Alexis posted a completely unsolicited beauty aura reading for none other than Billie Eilish. Take a look at this.
Billie Eilish just did a Get Ready With Me and the internet went crazy.
First thing that I thought, really? These are the products Billie chose? She's an artist, right? I would choose different works of art for her. I actually do something called beauty aura readings. In this case, let's do an Alexis beauty aura reading on Billie. And what that means is we're going to walk through what products Billie used and what they say about her and what products I would choose for Billie's aura and her essence. Neutralize her waterline, right? She's got this Maybelline tattoo studio. But to me, like the essence of Maybelline, it's very New York. I'm not so challenged by it, but she could go in with more of like product like Melt's waterline eyeliner. I feel like the Melt girls have more of that edge and that artistic flair than a legacy brand that's been around forever, like a Maybelline that's so corporate. She's creating this very, very precise, clean, balanced eyeline. To me, it looks like she's having a battle with a little bit of her femininity and her masculinity. To me, she is such an artist, and I would love to see more of her expressive art, the way she has so many different genres inside of her music. I want to see those genres in her eye look. I don't want to see such perfect clean lines for Billie. She really wants the emphasis on her eyes, but I want more Avril Lavigne grunge for her. I want more eyeshadow sticks with shimmer. I want a little bit of Half Magic's glitter puck on there for her. I want her to sex up the eyes in a way that really draws us in. I love Mario. I love that she's hitting her liner with the powder because she's going to get more performance and wear. And from an energetic frequency perspective, artist to artist, they align for me. Makeup by Mario and Billie's energy, 100. Grab NARS's Radiant Creamy Concealer, and she's using that concealer to spot treat. For me, when it comes to NARS Creamy, I actually launched that concealer at counter. I'd rather see her play with Bolt Bomb by Made by Mitchell, who's an indie artist, who's queer, who's fabulous, and she'll get more coverage and she'll also get this sheen look. It's about that exchange of energy that she's having as an artist with the product. I want her to be using things that are more connected to her on a soul level. Neons are more vibrant energetically and more connected to who she is. But I also want to see her play around with some illuminator. Is that like a Say Glowy Super Gel? Is that like a Mario Shaping Serum in the color Fair? Because I want her to to be this iced out queer goddess for us.
I mean, I don't think I really need to explain much about this video. It speaks for itself, and people weren't that happy in the comments either because it's kind of rude. But what it does speak to is Alexis's capitalist new age spirituality. It is totally bizarre to take expressions of spirituality and aura reading and then directly connect them to products that you can buy. And the thing is, people who find this TikTok of an aura reading grating are doing so because it's evidence of a larger pattern.
Light warriors that are
There's light warriors, yes, with our healing makeup hands.
So in this case, what's giving people the ick is Alexis's commodification of new age ideology and spiritual well-being. Alexis only shares her spiritual epiphanies when they relate to a product that can be bought and sold. So I'm forced to conclude that if it feels like a grift, it is. Related to the new age spiritual dog whistles is the issue of misinformation and disinformation being disseminated on the Lipstick Lesbians TikTok. Now, to be fair to the Lipstick Lesbians, they've got plenty of videos where they talk about chemicals and ingredients without demonizing and, in fact, demystifying them. The issue, once again, is that the Lipstick Lesbians are absolutely for sale, and if a brand offers them a good opportunity, they will happily espouse any of that brand's quote-unquote science in order to make a buck and sell the product. One of the best examples of this I could find is this video where they read out all of the marketing information from this natural deodorant as fact, which was then debunked by a couple of cosmetic chemists online.
Parts of our body that absorb product the most. I was shocked when I learned this. I'll never forget it. Your underarms and the bottom of your feet. So that means whatever you're putting on your underarms is actually way more likely to get absorbed into your bloodstream than the other parts of your skin, the largest organ in the body. Saltaire actually just sent me this mailer. It's a new serum deodorant that has a roller ball. It's incredibly clear. It's very much like aluminum-based deodorants can be slightly dangerous. I've been on the lookout for an aluminum-free deodorant. Antiperspirant versus deodorant, two very different things. A deo that's going to neutralize all of that sweat that's coming out of your armpits. But at the same time, you don't want to clog up your underarms, and you also don't want to be putting something potentially hazardous underneath the highest absorbency point of your body. There's actually 3 different acids inside of this, and I was really curious to understand a little bit more about what each of these do. So I did a little research, and actually these acids are going to help neutralize the odor. So for $12 is a really powerful, quote unquote, natural deo. This is a really cool launch.
For brevity's sake, I can confirm for you that the underarms are not actually the most absorbent part of your skin, and aluminium isn't dangerous in deodorant, and just generally, this is sort of a crunchy misinformation that you'll find alongside clean beauty products. If you've never heard clean beauty dismantled as misinformation before, I don't want to take up too much time doing that here, but just know that the whole idea of clean beauty is a rhetorical device which is used to demonize products that are not greenwashed or products that have a certain amount of scapegoat chemicals in them. Clean beauty speaks directly to the wellness industry, and it's wormed its way inside of the mainstream to a point where some things that used to be fringe ideas, like this one about how our skin absorbs things like toxins, are now just marketing phrases that you would see in Sephora and other makeup stores. But you might expect that someone like Alexis, who is such an expert in product development and marketing, that she would explain how clean beauty functions as a marketing term rather than using it to sell you stuff. Anyway, after they received critique for this video, they uploaded a statement, which as far as I can tell was just to the sentiment of do your own research. But yeah, they've deleted it from that page, so I can't play it for you. Here's another example.
All of these elements, when it relates to the skin is our largest organ.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll start here, but you also need to understand, like, there's people researching the skin's microbiome.
Yeah.
Your skin's microbiome is connected to your gut's microbiome. Your gut's microbiome connects to everything. Yeah. How your whole body's operating system functions. So what you put on your skin, the color of your skin, how well your skin can protect you, it all does matter in the grand scheme of things. We understand that there is so much nuance in the beauty industry.
Yeah.
So yes,
Preach.
Clearly for me, it inspired me. Yes, it's pharmaceutical, but it's the future.
Yes.
Technology. It's
That's unbelievable.
It's something people need. And again, they're not going to stop at melanin, right?
Yeah.
The melanin will help shield the sun, but maybe in the future, this company is going to have the technology, and I'm just spitballing.
Totally.
They didn't say this, but we're going to need to protect our skin, like I said, from more than just the sun in the future.
Yes.
So no one's going to be mad that they started doing the research in 2024 for that.
Yes.
When that comes out, when we all need it, whether it's a mascara or you know, a peptide. That's like really important for, you know, saving someone's life who's diabetic, or in this case, you know, saving someone's life who has a skin disease.
Exactly.
It's a
Outside.
disease.
That's crazy.
I want you to think about your hair like a rope. The minute that your hair gets touched with any type of chemical, it's going to fray. The bonding trifecta from L'Oreal actually connects the hair in a way that it re-synergizes the bond.
I will admit it's not in every video that they're spreading misinformation, but they do seem to have an issue with identifying credible sources and doing thorough research, because every now and then stuff just seems to slip through the cracks. People are rightfully upset by this because the Lipstick Lesbians have done everything in their power to create a lot of influence, and when they're spreading misinformation and disinformation, it can have very real consequences for the followers who believe in them. Okay, so one of the things that drew me towards making content about the Lipstick Lesbians in the first place was their propensity towards making ads. And what I mean by that is they do some paid partnerships, but you cannot tell the difference between their unpaid TikToks and their paid TikToks. As I've established, the Lipstick Lesbians are extremely brand focused. They are all about marketing and selling makeup. As a result, their content basically lives in this gray area where you can't tell when they've been paid and when they haven't been paid. And this has caused a lot of people to claim that they're making undisclosed ads. Take a look at this video.
This is a run, don't walk. It is the Sephora sale right now. I'm shopping holiday gifts for my makeup obsessed friends, family. I'm going right for the favorites because you're always going to get the largest differential in the value. Look at this, 54 to 158. Of these products, I use this all the time. I use this all the time. This is one of the #1 selling primers.
That's a full size?
This is a full size. This is a full size, and this Merit lip oil is a full size. I love this Elia pencil. Like right here for $54, this and this alone, these two items are $54. These go first. Once you get them on sale, the deal becomes mind-blowing.
This feels like an ad. They're using influencer marketing phrases like run, don't walk. They're picking things up off the shelf and reading their marketing claims, proclaiming that this is such a good deal, telling you who you should buy this for, telling you all of their favorite products. All of these things are hallmarks of all of their content. This, in my opinion, could not be more transparently aimed at making their audience purchase this specific item. I don't think we're stretching our imaginations to question whether or not this has been paid for by Sephora. Why else would they make such a specific video about a specific holiday deal? Look, I can't tell you for sure if they're making undisclosed ads because the phrase undisclosed ad implies that they've been paid directly by a brand to create an advertisement for them and then they've failed to disclose that paid partnership. But even if they haven't been paid, you have to question why they're making this content for free for these brands. Unfortunately, I do have to acknowledge that this could very well be a video that they made for free because it would fit into the culture of makeup influencing. The influencer marketing boom has meant that a lot of people are making content online that is just free advertising for big brands in the hopes of being picked up and then getting paid in the future. And that's something that I'm planning to talk about in my own series, critiquing makeup culture online. But when it comes to the Lipstick Lesbians, the real issue people have is an issue of credibility. In all of my research, I've seen that these women are absolutely on the side of the brand every single time, without fail. And despite Alexis's passion for sharing her product development knowledge, what she really wants to do is sell you makeup. Nothing makes that more obvious to me than this series they have, meeting and interviewing makeup CEOs. And of all the CEOs, the Charlotte Tilbury videos are the ones that get me the most. You cannot tell me that this video in which Alexis gasses up Charlotte Tilbury for being an incredible innovator and for championing the cause of women's body image, you can't tell me that this isn't about serving the capitalist gods. If you're not aware, Charlotte Tilbury makes very expensive makeup and she is also famously litigious. She has recently targeted smaller brands for encroaching on her possible sales, I guess. She's also a famous white woman who makes makeup primarily for white women. Listen, I don't want to get into it. Obviously, she's expanded her shade range, but like, you get where I'm going, right? Like, there's no world in which Charlotte Tilbury, a capitalist, deserves this kind of praise. But that's what we get from Alexis and Christina. So, do they make undisclosed ads? I cannot conclusively tell you, but does every single one of their videos feel like an ad? Yes. Alexis's makeup skills are called into question by a lot of people, sometimes in good faith and sometimes in a way that's pretty mean, but I couldn't make this video without a section about Alexis's actual makeup applying skills. Here are the facts. Alexis is the face of the Lipstick Lesbians. She's made a lot of videos, and in a lot of these videos, her makeup is noticeably bad. Her color matching is not good. Her Her choice of shades and shapes for her own face are often less than flattering and often unblended. Just overall, not executed with technical prowess. Now, if Alexis had never claimed to be a professional makeup artist or a working makeup artist, I would refuse to comment on this because I think it would just be mean. People are allowed to like makeup and not be the best at applying it. As usual, the issue here lies in the way that Alexis talks about herself. She's been very clear from day one that she considers herself a professional makeup artist. As I mentioned earlier, the only credential that Alexis lists for this title is her time working for NARS. If you walked into a makeup shop, NARS, Mecca, Mac, and you'd booked a makeup artist, but the person who sat you down for your booking had questionable makeup on, how would you feel? This is what I wondered when I saw that Alexis credits herself as a professional makeup artist, but her makeup looks like this. It made me wonder what, if any, qualification or training you need to become a NARS counter makeup artist like she was. I looked it up, I dove deep, and I think the answer is the same for every one of these makeup counter jobs. The truth is, this is a retail role. Now, you might be fooled by the title of makeup artist, but I'm sorry to say, this is the beauty equivalent of Subway's sandwich artists. That is to say, you can learn a little on the job, but you don't need to have any qualifications to do this role. Now, plenty of people do have these retail roles and plenty of qualifications. I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying Alexis doesn't. Look, it's clear to me, and I think everyone, that marketing is Alexis's strong suit. The way she demonstrates the qualities of makeup in store belies her inability to really apply it well. The swaths of liquid products on her hand, and they slip and slide all over while she pours at them, that's nothing like actually using the product in the way that it was intended. And to be fair, she's pretty clear that she does this because that's what product developers and chemists do to test makeup. They don't test makeup the way a consumer would. But I think the issue is the way that Alexis is muddying what her purpose is, because in the same breath, she'll tell us that she's speaking to the consumer as a working or professional makeup artist and that she cares about what the consumer would experience, but then also she'll say that she's a product developer and that's why she's using the product in such an inappropriate way for its purpose. I have seen critique of Alexis's makeup skill, which is just downright mean, but the problem is I can't discount this whole point because of the claims that she's made about her skills and abilities.
So baby, some people think that you're not a makeup artist because they say your makeup doesn't look good. Yeah, I know. Beauty mode or any of that. We are all societally so conditioned, I don't mean this in a degrading way, to look at people on screen that have been filtered or photoshopped. Two things of which you will never ever see on our channel. And you don't reapply your concealer and it rained and you have some flaking of your mascara and you're in store. I have two choices. Am I gonna keep filming or am I gonna go waste time touching up and creating a false illusion of perfection that no one's ever gonna... Sometimes I'm evaluating a new product and I don't know how it's gonna perform. You have to test the wear, but you can't just put it through a wear test while you're sitting in a bubble in your house with perfect lighting. You have to go out and test it as you would in your normal environment. And oftentimes while I am making content, I'm actively evaluating a product and I can tell, oh, not for me. How am I gonna then educate around that? What see me in just brown eyeshadow? I'm sorry, even though that looks the best on me and you'll never see me in a filter. So I'm sorry if you don't like my blue eyeshadow, but if I don't try it out, I can't actually tell you whether or not it's gonna be a good product.
If you're claiming to be a professional makeup artist or a working makeup artist and you are claiming to teach people about makeup from this perspective, then yes, I think it's fair that we critique the fact that this doesn't really seem credible. All right, we have almost made it to the present, but before we get there, I have to talk about the Lipstick Lesbians language, because this is absolutely one of the biggest icks that people seem to have, and it's fair. I want to keep this short because I think most of the marketing language has already been covered in other sections. One thing I really want to speak about is the titles that they give their audience, specifically beauty queens or melanated beauty queens. A lot of people feel that this language is patronizing, and I'm inclined to agree. There is something inherently reductive about changing the label for your audience based on the color of their skin and only having two distinctions. You have beauty queens, the normal one, and melanated beauty queens, the other one. In essence, they're not really doing anything progressive with this because it just reflects the state of the industry, where whiteness is seen as normal and any variation of this is lumped into one group, the other. I really want to give them the benefit of the doubt with this because I'm 100% certain that they chose this language in an attempt to be inclusive, but the problem is that people of color are not a monolith, so to differentiate only between two terms is inherently patronizing, I would say. Maybe they get points for effort. I guess that's up to interpretation. It's a bit weird, but it really is in line with the performative activism that we saw from Fempower. If ethical production for the Lipstick Lesbians is just about how much of your profits you donate to charity each year, then it stands to reason that a small distinction in language could be considered activism for them. The weirdest part is that melanated beauty queens is the only thing left from this commitment to activism that the Lipstick Lesbians seem to have in their early days. I've seen a lot of critique against microaggressions and racism from the Lipstick Lesbians, but I've mostly seen it on Reddit comments in makeup subs. That kind of critique doesn't really seem to be finding them, at least not in their own comment sections, but I've also seen accusations that they delete comments, so who can say? I do want to spotlight this one Reddit comment that I saw from Mrs. Noodles 0812 because I think it gives another good example. So for me, it has nothing to do with the fact that she isn't the best at makeup application, especially since she's on product development side of beauty. My problem with them is really around the fact that they lack intersectionality. I unfollowed them when they made the video regarding YSL and Gloria. They did an excellent job explaining all of the points of failure with the lavender blush launch and should have ended the video there. Instead, they went on to say that if YSL just apologizes for what they did, it would be healing for the beauty community. They were accepting an apology that not only hadn't happened yet, they were accepting an apology that wasn't theirs to accept or ask for. They harp on the fact that because they are a lesbian couple, they understand oppression. They fail to see their privilege within the community and on business side of things. This is really what made me walk away from watching their videos. It's a little food for thought. Here we are, 2026. The year of the Lipstick Lesbians' most high-profile controversy. But before we get into it, I have to set the scene. In early 2026, January and February, the Lipstick Lesbians could not have been flying higher. Their fans were loyal, attentive, engaged, and the prior year, 2025, saw Alexis and Christina on a bunch of podcasts I would know because I watched all of them, written about in different online magazines. You have to understand that everything I just talked about was not common knowledge. It isn't even common knowledge now. In early 2026, the vast majority of commentary and comments about the Lipstick Lesbians was positive. People were absolutely picking up what they were putting down. They felt that these two women were representing queer people in a positive way and sharing industry insight that otherwise was not available to regular consumers. So when they announced on the 28th of February 2026 that they were about to launch their own brand, the response was overwhelmingly positive, especially because they made claims from day zero that this brand was going to be unlike any brand that had ever existed before. This brand is called Leaked Labs.
Why haven't you launched anything yet?
Because the beauty industry is broken. When you hear an influencer say go back to the lab, well, brands don't have labs. Not all of them.
As someone who's not in the beauty industry, I had no idea that brands actually, for the most part, don't have their own labs and that they shop products that are presented to them by manufacturers.
Not getting a product that is as innovative as what the suppliers and the manufacturers are creating.
I said, so consumers will never get the ability to touch them or see how cool they are? And then she said, no, they won't. World, it's really called marketing.
Have the Lipstick Lesbians done a video on this?
The Lipstick Lesbians.
The Lipstick Lesbians.
The Lipstick Lesbians are here in the flesh.
The Lipstick Lesbians popularized people turning around their packaging and saying, oh my God, this is made in Italy. Oh my God, this is made in the USA. Oh my God, this is made in Korea.
Never before has a brand existed that is leaking innovation from all the labs in the world and bringing it to you for your feedback to then decide whether or not it gets to stay in permanent.
So we have a secret.
It's time we launch a brand, but this time, something new.
We are leaking the lab innovation from the best-in-class manufacturers around the world, and you get to be a part of it.
Leaked Labs is a speed-to-market pipeline of innovation. Beauty you've never met before.
They launched, I guess, like a TikTok docu-series about their first product, Amplify Flexi, where they claimed that the innovative texture of this product, which they labeled a flexible powder, was fun, exclusive, and importantly, completely new. And they were offering consumers a chance to be a part of the product development process in a way that regular brands wouldn't allow. They went on a bunch of podcasts talking about this, and online magazines were interviewing them prior to the launch of Leaked Labs. And in this press tour, they made a lot of claims, but not always in the most obvious way. Some of these claims were not common knowledge, and I dredged these up because, as I said, I've tried to watch every podcast they've ever been on. On the Los Angeles podcast on March 10th, they confirmed that they've planned 9 product releases already that ideally would all be released by the end of 2026. They also mentioned that there would be a survey aspect with the release of their first product, but this wasn't in the original launch videos and didn't happen straight away. They claimed in a throwaway comment that the real magic is that there's a high level of skincare in there as well. But this is the only time they've mentioned skincare with regard to Amplify Flexi. They mentioned that they don't own this formula, the factory that makes it owns it, and they briefly mentioned sustainability and reducing waste, but they don't really go into how this product is achieving those goals. And this was all prior to the launch. But after the product actually launched, the whole thing blew up in their faces. Because people didn't like Amplify Flexi and they didn't like Leaked Labs. They felt it was way overpriced for what you got, and suddenly the business model of Leaked Labs started to feel a little bit suspect. The Lipstick Lesbians had claimed that they wanted feedback, but when the feedback that they got was negative, they did what they usually do, which is double down and not accept responsibility. And that's when things really started going wrong. So here are the facts. First, they teased Flexi and did a docuseries on TikTok. It's important to note that at this time, they did not emphasize that there would be a survey available for customers to give feedback on the product. They mentioned that they wanted feedback so that customers could feel like they were a part of the product development cycle, but at this stage, there was no official avenue for people to give that feedback. Next, they send out PR packages, which included some extras like a palette and a spray bottle, which were necessary for using the product. But those who purchased the product for $34 just received 4 discs in one single tin. After people received their orders, they started giving bad reviews en masse. A few days after this, I'm pretty sure on the 13th of March, the Lipstick Lesbians released a follow-up video called The State of the Union, where they addressed the controversy through their tried and true method of doubling down.
The internet has spoken.
This is the first Leaked Labs State of the Union.
Why am I paying to have a product that's unfinished for me to test and give you feedback?
You're not paying for an unfinished good.
And you're not paying to do the work for us.
You're paying to participate in beauty's largest public focus group that's being documented.
We actually make sure we test beauty products before we launch them to make sure they're ready for consumers' hands.
We might even be testing them right now.
What we're doing is we're expediting that cycle and giving you the finished good that's presented by the manufacturer to your hands. But rest assured, Leaked Labs products are safe to use, pass all cosmetics and regulatory testing, ready for launch, and hygienic to you.
The preservative system is there for a reason, to make sure it's safe for you to use. So this is a space for collaboration. This is an invitation to all brands out there that aren't sure about an innovation. If they so choose, maybe they can leak it with our lab.
Is Flexi a gimmick?
Historically, when innovations launch, many people don't understand them and they need a lot of explanation.
If you want this product to be used the way you've used all your other powder products, is it really innovative?
The selfie camera was actually seen as a narcissistic gimmick when it first launched. And look at it now.
Lastly, we've come to understand we've solved one of your biggest pain points. Flexi is unbreakable. Take me, for example. I only dated men until I tried a woman, and boy was I surprised.
You need to be flexible.
Following poor reception for this video, they released a survey, finally making good on that promise to collect feedback. At this point, the question of where the customer data was going began to circulate, and a few days after that, they released extra videos answering some customer questions. And by March 28th, and I'm sure this will surprise no one, they deleted the State of the Union video. I'm going to rapid fire through all of the critiques for Amplify Flexi and Leaked Labs because I think they reflect a lot of the issues we already talked about in previous sections. Before I get into this, I want to address the sheer volume of criticism that they received at this time. The tide turned on the Lipstick Lesbians in such a drastic way that I don't think it can be overstated. Less than a month prior to this, the feedback that the Lipstick Lesbians received was overwhelmingly positive and had been for several years. Suddenly, people are making sweeping statements about their character, the way they look, the way they apply their makeup, insulting these women. And granted, in amongst all of this was a lot of really valid critique. I'm going to go over their response to the critique and how it fell short, but at this point I just want to mention that it's very human to feel hurt when you receive this level of backlash. I mean, I can only imagine. I understand that they were running a business and they have business responsibilities, but we also need to remember that these are two people. And although a lot of this was valid critique, they were heavily scrutinized and honestly insulted, especially for their responses to the feedback. I'm not defending what they did. I just want to remind everyone that these are people with feelings and not robots, so it's not surprising to me that they fell short in their responses. Even though it might seem like there's an obvious solution to us on this side of the controversy, I'm sure that for the Lipstick Lesbians, this was one of the most stressful and distressing events in their lives. And I don't know about you, but when I'm stressed and distressed, I don't always make the best decisions. Additionally, this wave of backlash was so intense that most of their original fans just shut up and stopped posting. So these women went from having a very active community to having virtually no one, because now not only were the Lipstick Lesbians afraid to speak in defense of themselves, but everyone who had previously supported them was as well. The climate of this discourse is a big part of what went down. So with that said, let me give you a comprehensive understanding of the critique against Amplify Flexi and Leaked Labs. Lightning round, let's go. First off, we have the criticism leveled at the product itself. Number one, they're ripping off their consumers. Okay, man, this is so uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but I have to move a little. Number one, they're ripping off their consumers. For the price of $34 American, which is just over 49 Australian dollars, Amplify Flexi was coming in at around 0.1 of an ounce or 2.8 grams of product. And this 2.8 grams was 4 discs in a simple lab sample style tin. So the $34 price tag definitely wasn't going to the packaging. This is a pretty simple critique and it's a valid one. I guess if we're wondering where all that money went, we can just observe the quality of the docuseries and the State of the Union videos. They've got a whole team behind this marketing. Number two, the packaging is a problem. What happens to this product when you use it? Does it just disintegrate? How can you continue to use it once you've made your way halfway through? This is another critique about the packaging because you're supposed to be able to play with Flexi, pick it up, and use it in a variety of ways, including wrapping it around your finger. But for $34, you would want to be able to continue using it right until the very last skerrick. But how are you supposed to store the dregs of this product when you only get one tin for all 4 shades? Again, this is pretty constructive feedback, very valid. Number 3. Amplify Flexi isn't that innovative, actually. It's just a worse version of jelly or stick eyeshadows that already exist. These products are not easily broken, unlike powder eyeshadows or products, and they are similar products because with this formula style, it's just utilizing different ratios of the gelling ingredients and the powder ingredients. So people were just pushing back on the idea that we needed this at all. And that leads to number 4. Well, maybe it's innovative in texture, but what's the point? Why innovate if the consumer doesn't need or want this product? It doesn't have a clear purpose, and as such, people are feeling ripped off. Number 5, it's not sanitary. And by that I mean you can't sanitize Flexi between uses because when it gets wet, it turns into a gel, but makeup artists who are required to sanitize their kit between uses and clients would need to drench this in rubbing alcohol, and it accelerates the degradation of the product. So when the Lipstick Lesbians responded to this, they claimed that you don't need to sanitize it between uses because it has preservatives in it, so it basically self-sanitizes. I mean, for obvious reasons, this just doesn't cut it as a response. They've asked for feedback, makeup artists have given them feedback, and their response to that is basically just to say, well, this product isn't for you. It's an interesting choice because makeup artists are typically some of the biggest spenders when it comes to makeup, so if it's not for them, who is Flexi really for? And well, that leads me on to the second set of critiques, which have to do with the experience of Leaked Labs and the Lipstick Lesbians' response to their feedback. All right, number 1. Paid focus group. The Lipstick Lesbians let us know in no uncertain terms that to purchase from Leaked Labs was to be a part of the world's biggest focus group. If you're wondering what a focus group is, it's a small collection of participants who are paid to give feedback on things before they're released to the public. Focus groups can be used in cosmetics and manufacturing. They're also sometimes used in media, right? Like, it's a way for a company to gauge the potential response to a product and then make amendments before they launch the actual product. As I mentioned, focus groups are usually paid because you are requesting labor. To try something and then give your opinion is using your time and your brain power. But apparently the Lipstick Lesbians want you to pay for the privilege of being that focus group. Only this isn't what most people thought they were paying for. They thought they were paying for the experience of trying a new product, and that's how it was marketed. The focus group phrasing wasn't clear from the get-go, and when they pulled it out, people weren't happy. Part of the problem with this, of course, is that they didn't release the survey so that you could officially give feedback until all of the bad feedback came through. Prior to this, they had expected that people's social media videos would function as the survey feedback. So by the time the survey came around, it was too little too late, because Alexis and Christina had made it pretty clear that they didn't want to take this kind of constructive feedback on. Number 2, the survey was way too long coming, and where is the data going anyway? Many people have speculated that leaked labs will be using the data from their paying customers to pitch things to other brands and businesses. They have now released a teary, messy bun, grey hoodie final response to all of this, in which they say that they would never sell their customers' data to other brands, yada yada yada. We still don't really have the answer to the question though, so we'll just have to see how that pans out. Understandably, this response hasn't sat well with people. Number 3. They haven't taken responsibility for any of the major issues that people have had with this launch. Alexis and Christina have made multiple videos in response to the backlash, mostly diverting the attention in some way or another. They've done interview-style videos with their manufacturers, and most recently, they've made that video I mentioned with the messy buns and the grey hoodie. Again, doubling down and responding to topics sort of just beside what the really big issues are, rather than actually addressing the big issues themselves. For example, there's been a lot of critique around the lack of response and support that the Lipstick Lesbians have provided in the comment sections of people's videos. Well, in this video, they talk about how people have been asking where they went and why they've disappeared, and then they go on to explain that they've been traveling, so they haven't had much time to do much of anything, and that they've released Flexi in one of the busiest cycles of the year, and that's why they haven't been active. Except that's not what people have been critiquing them for. They've actually been quite active in defending leaked labs, and not in fact responding to critique or acknowledging valid critique. At this stage, Amplify Flexi remains unsolved, and allegedly they still have 8 more releases to get through before the end of the year. Now look, it's clear that this whole thing has affected Alexis and Christina on a personal level, because Alexis cries at the end of this video and talks about how she's felt victimized in the beauty industry during her career for being too loud and too gay. I don't think I need to say this, but that's not actually relevant to what people are expecting from them. I mean, a month ago, this would have made sense, because the Lipstick Lesbians have always made their content about being gay. That's what their handle is. Lipstick Lesbians. But now that they've taken a lot of people's money, rather than just their attention, the people who paid aren't really that interested in Alexis and Christina's feelings. They're interested in hearing from the people who created a product that they paid for. The thing is, we can't discuss the negative feedback from leaked labs without discussing the state of the discourse itself. Because I think the reason that Alexis and Christina haven't responded well is because the reality is that no matter what they say at this point, they've already lost the trust of the vast majority of people, and the original audience who trusted them are still scared to stand up for them. I'm fairly sure they feel pretty hopeless about this, like no matter what they say, they're going to be lambasted, so they might as well stick to their guns. And although people are saying, oh, we just want them to take accountability, I'm pretty sure if they did, it still wouldn't be enough. And the reason I called this the state of discourse itself is because Alexis and Christina are just today's problem child within the online beauty world. We can look back and say in the past, it's been Jaclyn Hill, it's been James Charles, it's been Raw Beauty Christie. Stay with me, please. Okay, I understand that all of these people did something wrong. The question is, do we allow people to make mistakes and then grow and then continue on? Or do we hobble people for making mistakes, put them in the stocks, and then throw tomatoes at them until they go away forever? Recently, Raw Beauty Christie made a video about why she left YouTube for so long, where she addressed this tendency towards online lynch mobs. If you don't know who Raw Beauty Christie is, she's one of the OG beauty YouTubers. Okay, I promise you she's relevant to this argument. Now, Christie herself has her own blind spots when it comes to critical thinking. But one thing that I think is accurate in that video is the section where she talks about this feeling that no matter what she said, the court of public opinion had made up their mind and it would not be received well. I'm going to play a section from her video, a short one, that's been widely panned for being dramatic and not taking responsibility and being out of touch.
You may wonder, well, why didn't you just come out and say it wasn't true, if it wasn't true? Because you really let the narrative spin, obviously. Like, you could have just kind of put a pause on it. You could have said, hey, this isn't true, and we would have believed you. Would you? Studies have shown that any time an influencer comes out and says, hey, I'm innocent, you guys definitely give them the benefit of the doubt. You really do. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You give them a lot of grace and understanding. That's usually what happens during cancellations. No, what actually happens is that you eviscerate them and say, you're just trying to save face. You want people to respond. Why would they? Why would they respond when you don't listen to their response? It's immediately, you're just trying to save face. You're trying to play the victim. There's nothing they could say to make you believe them, so they're just not going to say anything.
I want to take a step back from moralizing this to discuss this particular issue, okay? Because I'm not talking about what Raw Beauty Christie did wrong or what the Lipstick Lesbians did wrong or asking what is so morally wrong that we shouldn't allow people to come back from it. No. I'm talking about the impact of hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of voices, views, and comments, and how that in itself stops people from actual accountability. Because it's one thing to know someone in real life who made a bad decision and to speak to them and expect them to learn and grow and be better. But it's entirely another thing to be one of a huge group of people who are all demanding retribution from someone. It's just not very motivating. Maybe what they're saying is righteous, fine, but the sheer volume of those demands sounds absolutely terrifying and really upsetting. Once again, I asked you to consider not what these people did wrong and what they deserve, but just the plain old emotional impact of being torn down by hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. At that point, you're just having to cope with how much that hurts rather than taking on board valid critique. And I want to take a moment and talk about the effect this has on us, the audience, as well, because I think that the propensity towards demands rather than genuine critique is also an issue when it comes to critical thinking. I've seen a lot of people walk back any support they ever had for Alexis and Christina, and I don't think that's fair. I think people are embarrassed because the implication of Alexis and Christina being lambasted as scammers and grifters now is that anyone who ever liked or believed in them must have been too stupid to realize that they were being scammed. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's really questionable about the Lipstick Lesbians, but that doesn't mean that they built their platform on scams and lies. Not everything that they've ever done has been a nefarious scheme to take money from people. In fact, quite the opposite is true. Look, if I'm honest, I think I'd get along great with Alexis and Christina if I met them in person. I mean, granted, I'm not really into spiritual woo-woo stuff and I really hate AI, but when it comes down to it, I'm a queer woman and I love to see queer women with passion. I love to see it. Like, Alexis genuinely seems so full of positivity, and the two of them just throw themselves into the projects that they take on. I think that a lot of people responded to their personalities because their personalities are fun. Honestly, the more time I've spent researching this, the more I've started to feel kind of affectionately towards their lack of judgment. I don't know, just from the sheer amount of hours I've spent listening to Alexis talk, I just don't think that they're bad people. I would love to have a conversation with Alexis about her belief that you can solve heteropatriarchy, homophobia, and racism by working within the system of brands and consumers, you know? Like the idea that if she was a lesbian CEO, the beauty industry wouldn't be so bad. Because I fundamentally disagree with that. And I would love to have a conversation with Christina about technology and what she thinks is so inspiring and great about modern technology, you know? Because sometimes I get jaded and I feel like a Luddite. It's nice that she's so hopeful. I really think that both of these women have pure intentions, which doesn't count for much, admittedly. And I know that because this script is over 18,000 words and not that many of those words have been complimentary. So to wrap up, let's revisit what we've learned so far and ask, what do we know about the Lipstick Lesbians and what can we expect from them in the future? All right, fellow peasants, gather around. We've been on a journey to get to this point. Believe it or not, I started out on this research simply planning to analyze their content and then talk about the state of the discourse surrounding leaked labs. As you can tell, this whole thing metastasized away from that and into an exploration of personal and business philosophy, scamming, grifting, and critical thought. Having reached this point, I'm starting to feel a little conflicted about how critical I've been, because I do think that in order for me to critique Alexis and Christina's integrity, I need to maintain my own. And to do that, I need to admit where they've been right and what they've done well. It just so happened that the more research I did, the more I found to question rather than celebrate. But I want to end this video with a very clear message, and that message is: influencers are people. They are flawed, they are complex, and just like us, they're always changing and growing. If we want them to get better, if we want them to take accountability, we have to treat them like people. The problem with labeling Alexis and Christina as purely scammers, grifters, or con artists is that it functionally abstracts them from real flawed people into cartoon villains. I don't think that greed is the primary motivator for Alexis and Christina. I think they genuinely want to disrupt the system that they have correctly observed is damaging. Alexis knows and understands that beauty standards are a problem and that the makeup world is run by men. But because her background is in marketing, she genuinely believes that she can disrupt the system by working within it. To the Lipstick Lesbians, fighting the good fight is about running a good brand, TM. A brand that does the right things. A brand that gives to charity. But this is what happens when your personal philosophy does not extend to disrupting capitalism. The Lipstick Lesbians have failed so many times because their business philosophy has one foot in an ethical framework and the other in a capitalist framework. They will never achieve their ethical goals by running a makeup company, and they will never achieve their financial goals by truly pursuing activism. The truth is that no one sees themselves as the bad guy. And most people are not completely bad or evil. Most people are like the Lipstick Lesbians, passionate about making change, but missing the realization that you can't disrupt the system and make tons of money at the same time. This is also why their educational content morphed into Undisclosed Ads. Alexis genuinely loves makeup and marketing. She doesn't see her job in disrupting the market as actually deconstructing and challenging the status quo. She just wants to make the status quo more comfortable for herself and Christina. But she genuinely believes that she is supporting queer and trans rights by doing this. She genuinely believes that she is anti-racist because she calls Black women melanated queens. So here are my final thoughts. After all of this research, Alexis and Christina, I have 3 questions for you. 1. What happened to the money that you crowdfunded for the Egypt collection? I would really like to know. 2. How do you feel about Web3 now that all of this is done? Did you sink a lot of money into it that you never saw again? And 3, how much AI did you use to make your $1,000 course? That's all. And to everyone else, I hope you enjoyed yourself. This has been one of the most intense hyperfixations I have ever had. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you were involved with Fempower in the early days, I would especially love to hear from you, or if you were served by Alexis at NARS, especially if you had a positive experience, I really would love to hear it. And in your opinion, what do you feel is healthy and respectful discourse online? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? Personally, I would like to see less comments moralizing and judging people's personalities and more valid critique on their actions. Let me know. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much from the bottom of my medieval peasant's heart. I plan to make many more videos across a variety of topics because despite what is recommended for success online, I refuse to pick a niche. So if you like me or you like the type of research I did, do follow. This took me a lot of time. I really hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and please be kind on the internet.